Hey, my skeletons. This is Twinkle,
And I'm James.
and welcome to What Are Your Skeletons?
What's up?
This is our debut episode. Woo woo! So please bear with us. So today we are going to a small town in northeast Ohio, 30 minutes from Cleveland and Akron. In this case, means a lot to myself, my mother, and my sister Mariah. We've always had a way we've always talked about it, but we've never had a way to process it until now. So I do want to give you a trigger warning for abuse and SA. So, when it comes around, you can either skip ahead or just come back for our next episode. So, James, are you ready to get into this?
Hey, let's get into it.
Yeah. So, on September 19th, 1999, Michelle Haas, who went by Shelly, was reported missing by her mother, Patricia Haas, after she received a phone call from Bob, Shelly's on and off again boyfriend. And he had found her 1993 Dodge Spirit. Which,
Spirit, huh?
yeah,
What type of car is the Spirit?
a Dodge. It's just a basic sedan. I'm funny.
That's the answer.
Yeah, honestly, I thought it would be more sportsy, and I kind of remember it being more sportsy, but it's honestly like just if you could think of like a little Toyota Corolla, like a old school, like 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so anywho, Bob was driving down Mount Vernon in Streetsboro, Ohio, where he saw Shelly's car parked at an angle with the front wheels turned. Bob thought to himself that Shelly would never park her car like this. Shelly took care of her car and always parked it right. Now, Bob called Patricia, Shelly's mother, in Streetsboro PD. Now, Streetsboro came down to Streetsboro Plaza on the Mount Vernon side, where the old bowling alley used to be, which now is a Planet Fitness for people that don't know. And, Streetsboro looked around the car, and then they wanted to get inside the trunk to make sure Shelly wasn't in there. And luckily, Shelly was not in there. So Streetsboro PD told Patricia that she needed to do a missing report with Kent PD because that is where her and Shelly lived. Yeah. And, like, for reference, Streetsboro and Kent are like 20-minute drive. Not even 15,
Oh, yeah.
really. Yeah, well, we go into Kent all the time. So,
Yeah, well, it's still a protocol, so.
yeah. Yeah, protocol because different police departments. So, so Patricia went back into Kent, Ohio to report Shelly missing because at this point, Shelly wasn't heard from for 2 days. After she did after she didn't show up to pick up the children she was supposed to watch that Friday, September 17th. Also, now finding her car, she knew something was wrong. So, who is and was Shelly? She was born March 6, 1976. Her mother was Patricia Haas. Her father was Ross Haas. Ross Haas. I couldn't.
That's hard.
That is. It's a lot of R's and a Haas. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, well, R's are hard for me anyway, so. Yeah. Her parents married when she was a year and 8 months old. Her mother was 23, her father was 34. Ross did have children from his first marriage, but Shelley was the only child of her mother's. Shelley was very petite, only 115 pounds at the most, and she stood about 5'3". She kept her hair short from what I can remember, and she was naturally brown, but she would frost her hair and let her roots grow out, so she kind of had that, I don't want to say trashy look, but it was just the look back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like, you let your dark hair roots grow out and then you had the blonde tips. And frosting, for people that don't know, you put a cap on your head and then in the box you're given the cap and you're given this like needle hook thing and you pull your hair out. It was torturous. You pull your hair out through this cap and as much hair as you as much hair as you pull out is as much as you're gonna die. So, anyways, so Shelly did graduate from Theodore Roosevelt High School in Kent, Ohio. She was class of 1995. Now, Kent, Ohio is home of Kent State University, and on May 4th of 1970, the students were protesting the Vietnam War, which a lot of people were protesting that war. They believed that we shouldn't have went over there. But anywho, and the National Guards came in and killed 4 and wounded 9 of students.
Sad.
Yes, very sad. So, back to Shelly. While in high school, she was involved with a lot of things. Ghost in RHS, which was a haunted locker room that the school put on for Halloween, which I thought would be cool to go to. I wish they still did that, because I would totally go just to support the school. Yeah, and anything Halloween,
Yeah.
I love. Yeah. So she did that her freshman and sophomore year. So she did it two years in a row. So she must have enjoyed it. And it was cute looking up the yearbooks and stuff and seeing pictures of it and everything. They really did a good job, I thought.
Oh, okay.
So she did choir her freshman year, cosmetology class her junior and senior year. So she must have been knowing something when she was frosting her hair. And then while doing those, she also did OWE her senior year, which OWE is a program for kids that are on the urge of dropping out and they just want to help you make sure you get your high school diploma, and they basically just really concentrate on you learning life skills and how to balance your checkbooks and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, this is stuff that they should still be teaching. So anyways, she was just a typical 90s student, just trying to find out who she was. She also loved anything Mickey Mouse and Disney. I'm not a big fan of Disney. I like the old school stuff, but some people be going overboard. So a little bit about Shelly and Bob's relationship. They got together in 1996. Shelly was 19, 20. Bob was 35. They were together for 2.5, 3 years. Shelly stayed with Bob in Ravenna, Ohio. Now, they lived next to us in the same house, but this house was split in 3 apartments. But when it was built in 1900, it was one big house. So this house was huge. And could you imagine? I couldn't imagine it being one big house. Like, knowing how it's split up now, and I'm assuming it's still, in 2025, still split up the same way. This house is huge.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, you've seen it. So, anyways, my mom, Jeanette, was and still is friends with Bob. They worked together at Reinhardt's towing truck repair in Streetsboro. This is how Shelly became mine and my sister Mariah's babysitter. Yeah. So Shelly was loving and caring with us girls. She taught me how to ride a bike. And she was the only one that had patience to teach me how to ride a bike. Even my Uncle Brett didn't have patience. But so there was this lady. I remember this one time. Shelly was watching us, and there was this lady. She was part of the at the time it was called the Kevin Coleman's. Now it's called the Coleman Center. Now, the Coleman Center is a program for adults and youth struggling with mental health. And they also have homes out in the community. So anyways, this lady came into our backyard and she stole all our toys, including my guitar. And I just remember her sitting on this slab of cement, just stringing away, singing about stealing my damn toys. And I'm like, lady, they're my toys. Yeah. So Shelly ended up calling Ravenna PD, and Ravenna PD came out. And when we went over to where our toys were, they were on the devil strip. So, a devil strip, for people that don't know, is the grassy area between the sidewalk and the streetway. Now, this is originally used first in Northeast Ohio to describe the area between streetcars. Now, streetcars, for people that don't know them by streetcars or trolley cars, and it was the area between the ones that were going in opposite directions. So, this was broke down to the tree lawn after they took out the trolley cars. And now we know the tree lawn as the Devil Strip, and that was first used in Akron in the late 1920s. So, a little history for us
Nice.
about the
Nice.
Devil Strip. Yeah. So, back to Shelly and Bob. Their relationship was not the best, it was very toxic. Bob was going through a divorce from his first wife while also being a dad to his two boys. And I remember his two boys. I remember growing up, especially the younger one. I don't want to name them in here, but especially the younger one. We always rode bikes and stuff together. I remember crashing into him one time. Oh, it was so bad. We didn't realize because we were coming around a curve
Yeah.
and our bikes collided.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it hurt. Hurt really bad. But anyways, so Bob was your typical biker, long hair, little rough around the edges, and indulging in the party life that came with being a biker. So, Bob was charged in May of 1998 with domestic abuse. Now, it was amended down to disorderly conduct, which I feel like that's the catch me all for Ohio, but it is what it is. So, with this charge, a temporary protection order for Shelly was put on Bob. So Bob couldn't be around Shelly around this time. But around the same time, Shelly was charged with menacing, which was dropped. So I wonder if it was hand in hand, these charges. So Bob and Shelly had been fighting one day, and Shelly locks herself in my mom's Firebird and threatens to kill herself. So, my mom calls Ravenna PD. They come out, and when they came out, they told my mom, well, we can't really do anything because Shelly doesn't have anything in there to hurt herself with. So, and my mom's like, she's in my damn car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's threatening to kill herself. Yeah. Yeah, and now, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like nowadays they hold you for 72 hours. But hopefully, mental health is looked at a little bit different now. I know it's still, people still struggle and it's still hard to get help, but they need to work on it. So, anyways, Bob being Bob, he had told Shelly, I don't want you here. Just go away. But Shelly kept coming back. On September 15th, 1999, after another one of their fights and the cops were called, Shelly packed all her things and went home to her mother in Kent. But that was short-lived because Shelly came back that night. Bob and, yeah. Well, you know how you are. You want to make the relationship work.
Right.
And as young as she was, she thought she was
No,
really
no,
in
I
love.
understand. No,
Yeah.
I'm not knocking her.
Yeah, yeah. So Bob and Shelly woke up the next day and the sun was out, but they both knew it was over. So Shelly just left. So they knew the relationship was coming to an end. So Shelly continued to go to Reinert's like normal because that is where she felt comfortable. And she considered everyone a friend there. But something was different. September 17th, 1999. Shelly had gone missing, and no one knew where she was for 5 days. So, back to September 19th. Patricia, Shelly's mother, had called Bob and asked when was the last time he talked to Shelly. Bob told Patricia that he had not seen her since September 16th. Later that day is when Bob found Shelly's car while at work and called Streetsboro PD and her mother. Bob was interviewed by Ravenna and Streetsboro PD. Now, Ravenna showed up one morning, well, late night into the early morning, and was banging on the door and woke everybody up in the house. And they,
and they wonderful timing.
yeah, I know, right? Well, probably to catch you off guard too,
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but they got wonderful timing. I
But
remember, I remember Dad telling Mom that she shouldn't have Bob around her or us girls. Dad believed that Bob had done something to Shelly because Bob had always made it known that, he didn't want Shelly around. And he was overheard one time saying he could care less if she dropped dead or died. So, it doesn't look good for Bob. Grandma and Aunt Sherry told Mom to stay away from Bob until the police found out what really happened to Shelly. But Mom kept hanging out with Bob. She believed Bob had nothing to do with Shelly going missing. Without anyone knowing, Bob was getting his affairs in order to skip town. Now, Bob is from Chicago, Illinois originally, and while living there, he had been interviewed for 2 other murders.
what?
Yeah, 2 other murders. So what is Bob willing to do?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
your name keep popping up, bro.
Yeah.
2 states now.
Yeah, for real.
That's not why you're in Ohio, is it?
I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe. So Bob just knew that he was going down for her being missing or possibly her murder with or without her body. Then the least expected thing happens on September 22nd, 1999. A 6'2", 250-pound white male walked in to turn himself in for the murder of Shelly Haas, his girlfriend.
Who?
His girlfriend.
No, who walked in? What? That ain't Bob.
No, because Bob's like probably a good 6'1", so an inch or two shorter. And Bob, at his heaviest I've probably ever seen him, is 200 pounds. And at the time, this was back in 1999, so Bob was way thinner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you ask, who is this
Yeah.
6'2", 250-pound white male? His name is James Reline. James, is that your last name?
Hell no.
I'm messing. So, James Reline, he was 39, married to Lori Reline. They had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, ages between 7 and 14. They lived in Warren, Ohio, in a 3-bedroom home. The kids had the rooms, while Lori and Reline slept on a pull-out bed in the living room, which had to be hell, because pull-out beds are not comfortable. And Warren, Ohio, for people that don't know, we are known up here as the steel belt. So Warren, Ohio was also a big city that had the steel mills. And I want to say in the early 2000s, that's when they started to move the steel mills overseas. And a lot of our cities, like Cleveland, also went downhill. And just like Detroit, kind of, too, because of the automobiles with Ford and GM.
It's been happening for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. So I spoke with the daughter of Reline. She told me Reline was not a father and he was evil. Now, Reline was never convicted of any of this. So, allegedly, there was physical and sexual abuse in the home. She also said that the oldest son took the brunt of the abuse. So, allegedly, Reline had sexually abused his daughter. She eventually told her mother, and her mother had put a lock on her door. Which, I mean, you don't know what the mother was going through.
It
So,
just sound like hell being there, period.
yeah, it really does. So, anyways, not trying to dwell on that too much. Yeah, and this is all allegedly.
Right.
So, going back to the day Shelly went missing, September 17th, 1999, was a typical end of the summer day, partly cloudy with a high of 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sorry for the people that use Celsius, I did not look that up. The following is taken from Reline's statements to the police. So, take this with a grain of salt.
Okay.
All right, so Reline was scheduled to work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Reinhardt's. It was payday, so Reline went and cashed his check about 9:42 a.m. He goes back to the shop on 14 and gives $60 back that he borrowed from the company. So mom's like, I asked mom about it, and she was like, sometimes we would carry cash with us that the company gave us, and if we needed gas, we would
Oh yeah, not
put it
jokes.
in there. Yeah. So, anyways, he then goes on a service call that took him roughly about an hour. Now, during that call, Shelly calls Reline and asks him to meet her at the Streetsboro Plaza. Now, Reline says he picked Shelly up between 12 and 12:30 p.m. They went to the garage on 303, which used to be known as the Keller's Farm. Once inside, Reline started to fondle Shelly's breasts. Shelly took off her top and they started to fool around. Shelly then threatens to tell his wife if Reline didn't give her $600. Reline tells Shelly he's not giving her any money. He tries to talk her out of it, but they start to argue. Reline then puts his hands around her throat and squeezes until life leaves her eyes. Her body goes limp. Reline placed her on the floor. He then gets duct tape and taped Shelly's mouth, head, and body, taping her hands and feet together to where she was hogtied. Then placed the tape on the shelf outside the office. Reline then placed Shelly on her right side and her back in the bed of his 1996 Ford Ranger.
She had no chance against him.
No, because this man was also known for his big hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember mom always telling the story that her and dad were working on one of their cars and they couldn't get the motor. I believe it was an Impala, if I'm not mistaken. And they were like switching out the motors and they couldn't get the motor to sit right. Well, Reline came by the shop on 14 and he like manhandled this engine and just shifted it and it dropped literally right in place. Yeah. Yeah, so this man is like, if you honestly think of a big farmer, cornbread fed farmer
No
boy.
disrespect to Shelly, but you would think of a Ross House. I mean, his name would be a Ross House.
Yeah. Not no James Reline. Yeah.
And also back to it, I don't. Of course, this is a account, right?
Yes, this is his account.
Yeah, I don't think that was consensual. He was probably trying something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we all believe that Shelly wouldn't. Shelly, she was trying to find herself.
Right?
She was, I feel like, kind of a lost soul. She loved attention, and I feel like she was getting the attention that she needed from Reline, but not realizing she was dealing with a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, back to it. Within the time frame of 12:30 p.m. to 3 p.m., Reline and Shelly had an argument. Reline took Shelly's life, taped her up, and put her in the bed of his truck. Cleaned up the crime scene, possibly took her car back to Streetsboro Plaza because we also believe, now this has not been proven, but we also believe that Shelly did not park her car like that because Shelly took very good care of her vehicles. And, babied it. Like, that was her baby.
Yeah.
So,
Excuse my cause. Did you see anything in the report where, like, maybe the seat was pushed all the way back for somebody larger? You know how they have that sometimes?
yeah, they had, and I didn't put it in here. So, when Streetsboro came and looked at the car, Patricia also came with, I believe, either Shelly's sister or like cousin or something. I can't remember exactly, but came with another female that was family related. And when she got into the vehicle, she was like, "Oh, Shelly sits really close to the steering wheel, like I do." So, but it makes me wonder.
Pushed in a hurry, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I,
Yeah, it makes me
too
wonder.
close, crazy, yeah.
Yeah, if Reline might have moved it.
Okay, well, he ain't that smart.
No. No. So, possibly took her car back to the Streetsboro Plaza, went back to get his own truck, which Shelly was in, goes to the main garage on 14 to tell everyone, including Bob, Shelly's boyfriend, he was not feeling good and was going home. So,
With her,
with her in the bed of his truck. Yeah.
damn,
Yeah.
damn.
Like literally right there. I couldn't. So, Reline calls his wife Lori around 3 p.m. to tell her that he had hurt or sprained his hand at work. Now, Reline then drove 45 minutes towards Warren, Ohio, where he lives, and dumped Shelly's body in a field off of Benedict Road. After dumping Shelly's body, he goes over to his aunt's house about 4:15 p.m., talks with her and another aunt that she had on the phone. He stays about 30 to 45 minutes with her and catches up. He goes home and Lori has dinner ready, but he does not eat. But he does get a bucket and car cleaning supplies and starts to clean out his 1996 Ford Ranger. Lori did ask him why he was cleaning it, and all he said was, "It's dirty."
Like, ain't nothing ever happened.
Yeah, like nothing happened. Yeah. For the next 2 days, he goes to work like normal, right next to Bob, that the Streetsboro PD is looking at super hard for Shelly's murder. Possible murder, I should say, but for sure her being missing. Sunday, Reline did come home with a newspaper, which was unusual. He just told Lori he was looking for a better job and closer to home. Reline did help with dinner that night. He made gravy, and I bet his gravy is not as good as Grandma's gravy. So, on Sunday, Reline's supervisor, Frank, also stopped by the shop at about 4:30 p.m. on 303. Now, Frank had been on vacation September 12th through the 19th. Frank did notice that the shop had been cleaned up, the floors had been washed, and no trash or tools were out of place. Now, Monday, September 20th, Reline and Lori went into PA. Reline applied for a mechanic position. They got home about 11 a.m. and then he went on to work. Now, Tuesday, September 21st, Bob Reinard, which is the owner of Reinard's, came down to the shop on 303. Now, we called Bob Reinard Old Man Reinard's. Yeah, so Old Man Reinard told Frank that Shelly was missing. Reinard then turned to Reline and asked if he knew. Yeah. Reline said he did know that Jim from the other shop on 14 told him the other night. Now, Reline also had a conversation with a co-worker later on that evening about Shelly going missing. And the girl that he spoke with also would go out with Shelly, and drink at some bars. So her and Shelly became friends. So on Monday of Wednesday, September 22nd, Reline and Lori were laying in bed at home. Reline told Lori that he had something to tell her, and she was not going to like it. That is when Reline told her that he had killed someone. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I'd be like, we gotta cover this up. I'm kidding.
Hey, shit. You might gotta talk to him, baby.
I know.
Good people.
So Lori told him to get up, get dressed, get out, and not to tell her anything else. Reline told Lori he had nowhere to go and someone was blackmailing him. That is when Lori said, turn yourself in. So by surprise, that is what James Reline did.
He wasn't even suspected, wasn't even on the radar.
No, everybody at work thought Bob did it. Everybody. There was rumors and whispers that Bob had something to do with Shelly's going missing.
I'm surprised the old man Reiner, like, not fired him, but I don't know. That's a different breed then.
They were all misfits at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
damn
I'm just
place.
saying, like nowadays, any controversy, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta let them go. Yeah, that's typically how it does happen. So he showed up at the Warren PD and asked Pratt at the counter if there were any detectives on duty. Pratt told him no, but there were several officers. Pratt then goes on and asks him what he needed help with. Reline just said, I want to turn myself in. Pratt looked Reline up and saw he had no warrants, so he wasn't understanding why Reline wanted to turn himself in. Like, dude, you have nothing on your criminal history. So he did not understand what for. But Reline only said he wanted to turn himself in. So Reline wasn't even giving him anything to go on. He was just like, I want to turn myself in. Like, for real? Pratt went and told Officer Mackey that Reline was in the lobby waiting to turn himself in. Mackey went and talked with him. Reline then told Mackey that he had killed someone. Mackey asked who and where. Reline told him a girl in Streetsboro. So he read Reline his rights and put him into the reporting room. He then called Streetsboro PD and they told him that Shelly was reported missing by her mother to Kent PD on September 19th. Officer Mackey called Warren Township PD and spoke with Sergeant Anthony. He told him that they had someone confessing to killing someone and the body might be in the township. Sergeant Anthony and Lieutenant Bishop came to the station to talk to Reline. Reline told Sergeant Anthony that he had a lot to get off his chest and wanted to confess. Reline was given his rights again. He said he fully understood them and was willing to make a statement about the murder he committed. Sergeant Anthony asked Reline how he knew Shelly was dead. Reline stated, I kept strangling her so hard that she stopped breathing, and I knew she was dead. Reline then said he put Shelly in the bed of his truck and drove out to the road off of Route 82. Reline was asked if he could give them a landmark to help find Shelly's body. Reline said he knew her body was off of Route 82, past the baseball fields, at the first road to the right and about a quarter of a mile in. Shelly's body would be on the left of of the road. Sergeant Anthony left, and that is when Lieutenant Bishop came in. Now, Bishop asked Reline if his rights were given to him. Reline stated yes, but Bishop still gave him his rights once again. He then asked Reline if he wanted to confess. Reline said he had already told the other officer. But Reline went on and told Lieutenant Bishop that a girl named Shelly from Streetsboro was causing him trouble, and he had met her in Streetsboro at his work. He got mad and strangled her to death. Now, Lieutenant Bishop asked Reline if he could take them to Shelly's body. Reline said yes. So, a Trumbull County sheriff, Lieutenant Bishop, and Reline all went out to Shelly's body. While Lieutenant Bishop was putting Reline in his cruiser, he asked him how he got there. Reline said, "My truck." Bishop asked him if that was the truck he used to move Shelly's body. Reline then handed his keys over. Lieutenant Bishop gave Reline his rights once again. That is one thing that they are really good at. Yeah, like left and right. Like, damn. I mean, I guess it's a good thing. So, Reline said yes, he wanted his rights, and he understood his rights, and he was not talking anymore. So he was like, I'm not talking anymore. Yeah, it's time for him to shut his mouth. So Lieutenant Bishop asked if he was still willing to take them to Shelly's body, and Reline was like, yes. So, at 7:02 a.m., Lieutenant Bishop, Reline, and Chief Rush arrived on Benedict. They drove about 1.5 miles north. The Mahoning River was to their right, and to their left was all woods. Now, this stretch of road was somewhat isolated, and still is when I Googled it on Google Maps at the time. Reline then told Lieutenant Bishop to stop the car. They stopped right where a wire was across an old farm road. So, like, where the farmers would go into their field from the road and stuff. So, anyways, they got out of the cruisers and went under the wire and walked about 30 yards in. That was when they saw the petite, decomposing body of Shelly, who had been missing for 5 days now. Yeah, it's so sad she was out there all by herself. Now, Lieutenant Bishop contacted Major Davis and confirmed that Shelly was located where Reline had said. Lieutenant Bishop and Chief Rush cleared the scene and waited for more officers to show up. Shelly was found in a dense brushed area. She was face down and hogtied. Neck, mouth, and upper body were taped as well. Shelly was wearing blue jeans, gray and blue long-sleeve shirt with a logo of a girl on the chest, and white Skechers. About 7 to 8 feet away from her was a 55-gallon rusted industrial drum. It was cold that day, with only temps in the 30s. Later that day, Detective V, Detective R, and Detective Brothers of the Streetsboro PD arrived at the garage on 303. So after they were done with Shelly and collecting all the evidence there where Shelly was found, they had some detectives from Streetsboro go to where Shelly was actually murdered. And that was the garage on 303. Okay. So, Old Man Reiner signed consent form to search the business. The office had 2 doors now. One leads to the work bay and the other to the section where the property owner used. As they were searching, they found 2 rolls of duct tape on the owner's side on a shelf. They found the duct tape on a shelf on the owner's side. Now, the BCI Special Agent Edward Lula, I like saying his last name, Lula, arrived shortly after. Now, he collected the two tape rolls and some substance from the office floor, which they believe could have been blood. Now, Reline was then booked into the Portage County Jail. The next day, September 23rd, Trumbull Memorial Hospital did Shelly's autopsy. So bear with me while we go over the details of the autopsy. So the autopsy noted multiple ligatures from the duct tape were found on her mouth, face, neck, and body. A large one covered the upper right lip and mouth, went across her right cheek and over her right ear. There were at least 5 pieces of duct tape wrapped within her hair. There was a piece of tape extremely tight wrapped around her neck to where they could not slip a finger between her neck and the tape. Another strand started on the left of her neck, went under Shelly's shirt in a diagonal fashion across the right upper back, and ended at her midline. There were multiple contusions to her eye, nose, lip, right shoulder, right side of chest, right arm, and left mid-thigh. Good God. It's so horrible. Now, blood had started to collect and bruise. This could be from Reline also moving her body in and out of the bed of the truck. Now, no trauma was found to her sexual organs, which is a good thing. Shelly's blood and urine scans came back negative, which Shelly wasn't a partier anyways. She drank here and there and stuff, but she wasn't a partier. Her neck showed deep muscular bruising where Reline had stated he strangled Shelly. So the cause of death was ruled as asphyxia, and the manner was homicide. So now we know all this, but why? All we have is Reline's side. Now, Reline was described by co-workers as a nice and friendly man. Hell, everyone at work thought Bob did it. They never thought Reline did it. Why would he has a wife and kids? Why would he do it? You know?
Right.
But this man killed Shelly and took her away from all of us. He took a life that still had so much to give this world. Now, Reline says that they were having an affair, and she started to blackmail him for $600, which I call BS. Yeah, yeah. So Shelly's family, friends, and boyfriend all said Shelly would never have an affair with Reline. Shelly was a very clean person. She took 2 to 3 baths a day. Well, hell, I take 1 to 2. It depends on how I feel. Sometimes a shower just feels so good and relaxes you. Showers they're medicine. They really are. Especially a nice hot shower. So, to where Reline always looked dirty. So, Shelly was always clean. Reline literally looked dirty, like his pants had a shine to them. And they were so stiff from being dirty that they could stand all by themselves. Yeah, it was horrible. We all believed that Reline had it in his head that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. She was one of those people that never met a stranger. Hell, her boyfriend Bob worked with this man. Yeah, she thought that she could trust him, and sadly, she did trust him. Hell, I remember going to work with Mom, and me and her being in a truck with Reline, and it was nighttime. So everybody everybody trusted Reline. Everybody looked at Reline as a friend. Like Reline had been over to our house before.
Wow.
Yeah. So Patricia struggled with the loss of her daughter and only child. She did have her family and friends with her, but it never would be the same without her daughter. So the judge held Reline on $1 million cash bond. Reline said he could not afford a lawyer and he was assigned a court appointed lawyer. But Reline pled guilty and wanted the death penalty. Okay, I'm going to read the victim statement that Patricia Haas wrote. She had to have a victim advocate read it because she could not get through it herself, so please bear with me. It says, Your Honor, James Reline has taken my daughter's life, Michelle Lynn Haas, age 23 and a half years old, away. James Reline has taken my only child away from me. James Reline has taken away her ever getting married and having children and kept her from having grandchildren for her mother. James Reline has taken away holidays from her and her mother and her family, and now all I have is a picture of her. She is a very pretty girl. She had a lot of family and friends. She loved children, and all she did was babysit. James Reline has taken everything away from her that she can't have now and that I can't have back again. She can't even go places with her mother anymore. I can't even see her smile to me. I just wish I could be with her again. I can't even see her happy again. The one thing I can say, James Reline cannot take away my love for my daughter, Michelle Lynn Haas. James Reline has taken away his family's life also. Thank you, Your Honor.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
deep.
yeah.
Yeah. It's very sad. Shelly had a lot to live for still.
Yeah, she didn't even really get started.
No, she did not. It's so sad. I feel bad for the mother too because the mother passed 2 years after Shelly passed.
Damn.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like she might have died. Now I don't know for real, but she probably died from a broken heart.
That's a real thing.
So Reline was given 25 years to life. 20 years to life for aggravated murder, 5 years for kidnapping. So after 25 years, he could get paroled. Reline did go up for parole on July 2nd, 2024. He was denied parole because he had not completed any programs based upon his needs to help manage his risks to the community. Now, I did not know this, and maybe this is just me being ignorant to the whole prison system, but there is programs within the prison that they want you to do to get paroled.
Well, yeah, you right. Yeah, because you gotta have some type of rehabilitation.
Yes.
You want to come out as a savage or
No. Well, no, we don't want him to come back out and murder somebody.
Yeah, well, hopefully the savages they keep in. Excuse me.
Yeah,
You
honestly.
know what I mean? You know,
But I was ignorant to that. I didn't know that. I just thought you went and did time, and I mean, if you wanted to do something to keep you busy, you could do it. I didn't know it was like mandatory.
I don't know about all that either.
Well, it's not mandatory, but they want him to do it. He won't get paroled if he doesn't try.
Well, it sounds like you don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely. So
Yeah, he wanted the death penalty, so he could care less. Yeah. So he still refuses to give any insight to Shelly's murder and won't explain why he killed her. He has no parole plan or even thought about a plan that would work for him. Out of all 6 members of the parole board they considered him unsuitable for release. They believe if Reline was released into society, there would be undue risk to public safety. Yeah, that's major. And I've watched parole board hearings on YouTube, and it's major when they deny because I feel like they accept. Now, this was Connecticut and Iowa's I was watching, and I feel like they always accept. But that's just me. But his next parole board review is May of 2028. So in about three years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Shelly and Patricia is buried in Standing Rock Cemetery, which is in Kent, Ohio. I know family members, there's not a lot of them left. And when I was up there, her site does need a little bit cleaning up. I do plan on doing that within the next couple months, just out of respect, and everything. So I did want to tell a little story. Well, not a little story, but I do want to put out there. Me and my sister, both within the weeks before Shelly's murder, we had gone up to the barn with Shelly to see Reline. So, and I guess I always just kind of looked past it until Mariah brought up the memory of when we were up there, that we were standing by the barn where she was murdered in, and there was tall grass and you could hear the crickets and stuff, and Reline was trying to scare us, and he was like, "Oh, those are snakes. Those are snakes." And I'm looking at Mariah, I'm like, "No, those are crickets." Like, but that's how it was.
Oh, wait a minute. Y'all went up there with Shelly to see Reline? So did
Yeah.
they have something? Did they really did have something going on? Or was
Mm,
this just
no, I think she was just friends with everybody up there. I honestly feel like she was friends. I know Shelly did not let us go into the garage, the barn. We call it the barn. Um, but we had to stay outside. So who knows, you know? And I hate to say that about Shelly too, but we don't have Shelly's side. So we don't even know her side of the story, sadly, because she was murdered. Um, but yeah, me and Mariah were up there. So just if one day freaking they got in an argument while we were there, what would have happened to us?
yeah, well,
Yeah. And I remember this man used to chase us around the garage on 14
yeah.
and give us little dollars and change for the candy and pop machine. So, yeah, it's a crazy world. I didn't realize, like, as an adult looking back on my memories, I'm like, damn, that shit really could have happened to us. And Mom not knowing that we went out with Shelly too. Mom always thought we stayed at the house. So, yeah, it was crazy. But he is in jail. His wife and his kids did move down to Texas with another guy named Dale, that they all worked with at Reinhardt's. So maybe I can get Mom to do a couple videos of that and everything. Do little shorts for y'all. So, all right, well, stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for tuning in.
Yeah,
We'll be having more to come, of course.
always. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got, babe. I mean,
Yeah, that's
great
all.
job.
Yeah.
Good job on that.
So always remember to ask, do you got skeletons?